All right, everyone, welcome back into another betting video. Going to be breaking down the best bets for the Monday Night Showdown between the Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that stands out to me when we are looking at this game is the high game total, 49.5 total points. What's interesting about that is we've seen kind of Dak Prescott fall off in terms of his play a little bit. He started the season out looking very elite, honestly, and he's definitely regressed a little bit there. And then you have the Raiders, who have just been bad really the whole year, especially offensively. Defensively, they've had some pretty good games. They've also had some games where they give up a lot of points, and we know the Dallas Cowboys defense is pretty bad, but I don't know, this seems fishy to me that it's supposed to be that high. And also looking at the point spread, the fact that the Cowboys are not favored a little bit more than this is also a little bit shocking to me, but overall I would say like 4.5 points would probably be what I was looking at. And so we go ahead and take a peek at some of the bets that we were getting here for this game, guys. Lovig is offering Dallas at 3.5 at plus 105. Obviously, that ends up being a bet that I like. I do not want to bet the over. Again, I think we'd be best off betting the under. So, like in terms of plus EV bets, really Lovig is the best option there for the audience that's just looking for like these types of bets. But now let's go ahead and jump into some of the prop bets that we are getting. So one of my favorite bets in this game is Tyler Lockett to get over his receiving yards of 25.5. This is very much predicated on the Dallas Cowboys winning, however. Okay, so let's just break down kind of the stats from last week there for Tyler Lockett. He saw 59% of the snaps overall, which obviously we like in his first game there with the Raiders. End up getting 79% of the snaps for passing down plays. The issue comes when we're looking at 12 versus 11 personnel. He did not play a single snap in 12 personnel formations. They ran 47% of their snaps out of 12 personnel. Now, on the flip side of that, he played in all but one snap in 11 personnel. They ran about 50% of their plays out of 11 personnel. And so why is this important? Well, obviously, if the game is close, we could see a little bit more of a balanced attack, 12 and 11 personnel mixing in and mixing out. Okay, that would be fine. If you think the Dallas Cowboys are going to win by a decent amount, then this bet becomes much better because we would see a lot more 11 personnel. The concern would be if the Raiders are actually winning and playing well, they're playing with the lead, we actually might end up seeing a little bit more 12 personnel. They had to run out Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer in a bunch of formations and plays. Obviously, that's why I was at 47% last week. And so that would be the concern. But overall, I do see this as a game in which Dallas should win. And so overall, this ends up being a pretty good bet. Now, guys, in his first game, he was pretty heavily involved. Okay, he ended up getting 5 receptions, 44 receiving yards on 6 targets. So that all bodes really well for him against the Dallas Cowboys, who give up a lot of passing yards to opposing receivers. Okay, they give up an average of 56.9 receiving yards per receiver. They also give up 16 touchdowns as well. And so I'm not betting on Tyler Lockett to score a touchdown, but if you're looking for like an anytime touchdown bet for one of the receivers, and if that trend continues, it probably would be Trey Tucker, who has been playing. He played every single snap last week, guys. He's in that Jacoby Myers role now. Obviously, he's gone. So not a terrible spot, but I like the Tyler Lockett bet much better. So while the Dallas Cowboys give up a lot of receiving yards and a lot of receiving TDs to opposing receivers, the Raiders actually give up a ton of receptions to opposing receivers. And so one of my favorite bets as well is going to be looking at CeeDee Lamb to get over his reception. Now, obviously, it's CeeDee Lamb. I don't really need to talk about the talent of CeeDee Lamb, but really we're going to talk about the matchup, guys. So the Raiders give up an average of 4.52 receptions to opposing receivers. That is bottom 5 in the league, and that could be adjusted after this week as well because a lot of teams have already played since I've been recording this video. So data could be a little bit skewed, could be a little bit less than that, could be a little bit more depending on how this game goes. But still, this is a spot to attack. And obviously, CeeDee Lamb is getting targeted heavily by Dak Prescott, guys. 12 and 10 targets over the last couple of games. They are coming in off of a bye week. That overall maybe helps the defense play a little bit better. It could also help the offense get right as well. But obviously, CeeDee Lamb's just been targeted a bunch. 8 targets is his min targets that he's gotten. He has gotten over 6.5 receptions in all but one game thus far this year, which obviously we like that. And given the fact that this is the the weakness of the Raiders defense, I think we want to be attacking that. So those two bets are my two favorite bets for PrizePicks and underdog purposes. And the nice thing about both of those bets, if you guys are someone that's betting on those sites, is they are bets where we're being told to bet the over via the sports books. And so typically speaking, as you guys know, if you're playing on PrizePicks or underdog, you want to be chasing these bets that have around a 54% likely to hit. And we're just really not getting that for this game as it currently sits. Okay, so those are two kind of more traditional bets that I like for really any site, but I also like the fact that we can get those on PrizePicks and underdog. That being said, guys, Javonte Williams for under his fantasy score is somewhat of an interesting bet. Again, just with the weakness being that you're going to attack the Raiders throwing the football. I could see this being a bet that hits, although, again, we know that these bets are kind of predicated on a player scoring a touchdown or not. And Javonte Williams is just playing too many snaps for me to really want to be on any of his unders, if that makes sense. If there was an over bet that was popping, I'd be much more inclined to bet on that. And so that's a bet that I'm probably staying away from there for Dallas. And then after that, it does drop off. Like Jake Ferguson, some people are going to want to bet, I think, for over 4.5 receptions. I'm just worried about the matchup with the Raiders. They actually don't give up that many receptions to opposing tight ends. And so that seems like a spot that we should just stay away from. And then let's go ahead and jump back into the Raiders, guys. For the Raiders, we are getting some under bets that I could end up seeing hitting. Ashton Jeanty to get under 16 for his fantasy score. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable betting on this one either. Okay, Jeanty right now is their offense. Okay, played 88% of the snaps, had 5 targets, 3 receptions, 19 rushes in the last game. And that was against Denver, who is a pretty good defense. That game was extremely low scoring. This should end up being what Vegas thinks is a higher scoring game. And if they're right about that, this ends up being a bet that we probably maybe are looking at for the over. So as I'm recording this video, we actually aren't getting any underdog lines. And so just be on the lookout for the underdog fantasy score lines, because we could potentially be getting edges where maybe we could find some over bets there instead. Like if the PrizePicks lines end up being too high in comparison to underdog, I want to bet the overs probably more so. And then, guys, Brock Bowers, I probably am more inclined to bet on his under than I am Jeanty. But again, Dallas does give up a lot of production to opposing receivers. And I know Brock Bowers isn't technically a receiver, but he does operate a lot like that as well. So I don't know. I think it's best to avoid him. But overall, like, we do see his game log, it is pretty poor. Like, it wouldn't be surprising to see him get that under. And that's basically predicated on Geno Smith just being terrible. So, guys, before I get into Geno Smith, I do want to pick your guys' brain about this. I think next year, Kyler Murray could actually end up being the quarterback for the Raiders, because I think that just ends up being a good fit. I don't know. Is that too soon? Like, is Jacoby Brissett, who has kind of gotten blown out the past few games, but has been a dominant force DFS-wise, if you guys play NFL DFS, maybe they keep him. I don't know. The time for Kyler Murray in Arizona seems like it's up. And so I don't know. Does that make for a good replacement from Geno Smith? I kind of had that thought. But jumping into Geno Smith, yeah, he has struggled. He really has. And I'm actually surprised at some of the lines that we were getting for him. I know he's going against Dallas, who has been terrible, but they are coming in off of a bye week. You think the defense would be a little bit better. Let's face it, Geno lost his receiver number 1. Jacoby Myers is no longer there. Sure, they brought in Tyler Lockett, but I mean, my goodness, he just has consistently not gotten the over here. Now, you could argue that, yes, the matchups have been more difficult for Geno lately, and that's why. But there's a portion of the season where it wasn't, okay? And he was just terrible against easy matchups. And so I don't know. I do see myself probably wanting to get to the under here for his passing yards. And then I did just want to mention Dak as well. A lot of people are betting on his over passing yards, I'm going to assume, at 257.5 because of the matchup. I'm just going to assume that's what's going on there. I don't mind betting on Dak for some of his overs, but I think the lines that we're getting on him seem to be correct right now. And so with that, guys, just giving you guys a simple 2-slip bet here. Those first 2 bets that I started out with, you guys could use the fantasy score ones. If you guys want to get to those bets, by all means do that. Now, if I mentioned, like, if underdogs lines are lower for those unders, I might actually like the overs a little bit for the fantasy score lines. But if their lines are higher, then I think I might be forced into betting their unders. And I say that because, well, underdog typically has their fantasy score lines a bit higher than PrizePicks. So just be on the lookout for those when those get released. But yeah, these two, I think, end up being 2 pretty solid, both PrizePicks and underdog bets, but also traditional sports bets as well. That's going to do that for this video, guys. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.